Hello everyone, and welcome to the Edgehill Engine Station, which has just been granted historical scheduled monument status. There's been a fair bit of press the last couple of days, but as I say, we've just come in today to do a bit of research. So we're looking here at the first stable. Now we've used this as our little base, so our equipment's in here. So we'll move on to the second stable, same thing again. Now what you're seeing here, this cutout, is we think it was to collect the rainwater, so the rainwater would then go through that hole. And if we venture inside, that rain would come down here and be held in a trough here. So you can see the door. It's got an original hinge there. There's a recess there. So wide enough for a horse to be stabled in here. So let's come out again into the cutting in general. Third room, purpose built as an office. Not very impressive. It does have a fireplace in that corner though. Coming out, so we've got a big, huge arch. Now this is more modern, and this held a big boiler to boil water, because when Edgehill, as we know it today, were opened, they didn't build boilers there. They just used the boilers that were already here, which, if we move down a little bit, if you see those two arches just there, that wall going up is where the Moorish Arch would have been. And it has two boiler arches under the stairs, and there would have been two more you can just make out behind railings over there. But they then built this big one. Now, we don't know if they built this one for when Lime Street and Edgehill opened, or whether they built this one when the Victoria Tunnel was opened several years later. I say, because this was, as you can imagine, quite a big beastie. So let's carry on further. So these are the famous stairs. So if you see images of the cutting from the day, you'd see these stairs going up either side of the Moorish Arch. And it would have these two, were the existing boilers. So you had basically four boilers here. That one. I can't see through the undergrowth for the other one. Yeah, you can just make it out, but it's not very good. And so they'd have four boilers, and they'd only really use one of them at any time. That's what you call redundancy. So they'd have the two towers. So the tower this is the inside of the tower here. So you'd have this tower, and you'd have the other side of the tower on the south side of the arch. And so these two boilers would connect to the steam engine in this arch, and those two boilers would connect to the steam engine in that arch. So you'd only need one steam engine at a time. So you had redundancy with the steam engines, so you had a spare. And then while you would also hear that each of them had two boilers, so there was always a spare boiler. So this was belt and braces well thought out back in 1826, 27. So yet this is now the interior of what would have been the north tower of the Moorish Arch. Now we actually look down here, and this here is the foundation stone, which is, I say, this is the extent of it. So yes, it's that's one wall of it, and it would have been butted up against that wall. Now, if you notice, there's all these little cuts in the wall. Now, what we think those are is you'd put wooden pegs in those holes, and then you'd put wooden panelling on the wall. But this is the home of a steam engine, so you'd think there'd be a lot of moisture, so the wooden panelling would be sort of warping, etc. So not quite sure what that is, but if you just look at this wall, now we've brought the drone with us, so we're going to get a close-up of this wall and try and get more detail of maybe that's nook and cranny. It's a bit overgrown, so that's one of the first problems we're going to have to come to terms with, is how to get rid of all this growth, because it's doing some serious damage in places. So this is the first thing that's going to have to go as part of any sort of saving this site for future use. So again, this was sealed off, so you can see all the blue engineering bricks in the wall. That's been later added. So all those sort of trenches that were dug into the sandstone, just up there you can see a circular, in fact there's two circular, as if those two drums or two cogs of some nature that were on the wall at that point. So yeah, a lot of trying to comprehend what all these holes corresponded with. And of course, I said we've got, if we get this, it's very treacherous in here. This is the reason why we don't have public access. So yeah, you can see that's also semicircular. I don't know if this was like a sort of to change from vertical motion to rotary motion. A big wheel that would be rotated round by the downward action of the steam engine piston. But yeah, all this needs properly recording by a proper archaeologist, which isn't me, but it's just nice to be in and starting to look at things and what could be done with the place. Now, I'm currently standing, say we're next to the wall, and I'm still basically on that stonework. So this is the corner of the Moorish Arch. So the tracks would have been over here. And this thing here was a hot water tank. So the tracks there would have been a set of points or switches, as they called them back then, that would have created a line here. So at this point, it was 4 lines wide. And that first arch is like a Coke store. So the locomotives, once they'd been to Manchester and they needed replenishing, would come here. So there'd be a big tank there. Now, that was getting heated by the steam engines, well, by the boilers, sorry. And so that was hot water that would go into the locomotive tenders to give it a head start before it even went near the boiler of the engine. So it was already hottish, so not as much energy was needed. And the last thing I'll show you at the moment, there's nothing to them, they are just cut out. They just go back around 20 foot, say 15, 18 foot. And I say this is where they'd store all the coke that would be taken on those early locomotives. And we think the second ones were cut for workshops, like there would have been a blacksmith or something. There's pictures of somebody working a bellows in one of these. So walking back down the site, I say I can't really video in there. We're just about to go into this little tunnel in front of, well, my colleagues are already in there having fun. We've not been in here yet. This is the 1829 passenger tunnel. This is the smallest of the 3. So this is where the train of coaches would come down from the Crown Street station. Here we go, back on the stonework of the Moorish Arch. And so they would trundle down here into this cutting to be attached to an engine. Now, if I can walk without falling over, say, believe me, it is absolutely true. I've already been over once already, and I lost my phone for a little bit. We had to go hunting for my phone because it came out of my pocket when I fell over. But, so this is the west wall. Just coming into view now beside the passenger tunnel is the bigger Wapping tunnel. Now, here we go, this is the Wapping tunnel. So this is the one that goes all the way down to King's Dock. 1.25 miles long. And just over there is the more modern and still active. So you can see there are tracks on here. Now all this gets used for is what's called a head shunt. Now a head shunt allows a train to come in. If I walk over, I don't know if you can make that out on Facebook, but a train comes in on that far track, pulls into the tunnel, and just at the end there, it goes to one track as a set of points. So the engine will go to the very end, detach, run round on this outside track, go down, and then join the other end of the train. So it's basically a way of turning trains round. Now you can tell that the tracks are a bit rusty, but they are maintained. You can see the oil there on that joint. They only get used once or twice a week at the moment, but it is still an active railway, and I can't step any further than I am at the moment. I don't want to get any closer. But you can just see over there, protected by railings, are arches similar to the ones that we've just looked at on this side. So where that big tree is coming out, that would have been the location of the other arch, the other side of the Moorish Arch, and those are the two boiler rooms. And further along, where there's a littler shrub, just before you get to the Chatsworth Drive Bridge there, that would have been again more storage arches or work arches. But yes, it's nice to come in, but as you can see, it's just totally overgrown with trees, and this is the big problem. This is why we can't have any public access at the moment. This is hard hat territory. I'm wearing safety boots, and it's just treacherous. And so I've been over. There's been a few stumbles. So we would like to look to get this all cleaned out and get public access. And as soon as we can, then yes, we'd love to invite people in here to have a look for themselves. But in the meantime, I just wanted to give you a little run around of what this site actually is. So, as I say, when I finish review here, I'm going to go down. We'll take some photos down at the far end, because what we're looking at, the smaller tunnel, the 1829 passenger tunnel, used to come out in what is now Crown Street Park, but it's now under a big earth bank. So basically, the council claimed back at the time in the 1980s they capped it with concrete, but they didn't really. You can't make it out there, but I can just make out my colleagues' lights down the far end. But yeah, so I'm afraid I can't video because I'm using the network data to transmit this live, so that'll go. So we'll take some photos. We'll be posting a lot later. We're going to put the drone up so we can get a closer look at the details that are up around the top here. So we'll post more once we've come out and we've processed. So I'm just looking at a question from Nick Grimes. No, this is further away than, this is the other side of the Lime Street cutting. So the Williamson tunnels are on the north side of the Lime Street cutting. In fact, the Lime Street cutting did cut through the triple-decker tunnel of the Williamson tunnels. But no, this is unrelated to Williamson, this side of the cutting. So I'm going to finish up. We're going to do a lot more measuring and investigation work, and we'll take lots of photos, and we shall publish later on. All right then, thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.